Orphen still remembered the time he spared Azalee's life. She was determined to rediscover herself. Meanwhile, Orphen knew that there were two people hiding in the back of his carriage. They were the young lady and Magic. He had known they were there since the young lady had gifted him the carriage. Orphen asked them why they were following him. The young lady wanted to see the world and had left a note for her mother. Magic wanted to learn magic from Orphen and would pay the tuition fees himself, having already discussed it with his father. Magic also knew the young lady as they had attended school together. Magic asked Orphen where he planned to go, and he said he needed to return to the Tower Fang on business. On their way, they reached the Fenrir forest. This forest was home to many dangerous creatures, and the only way to get to the Tower Fang was to pass through it. When Cleon went to bathe, she asked Magic to keep watch. However, Magic took the opportunity to use magic to peek at her. She felt like she was being watched, but Magic convinced her it was just her imagination. Orphen had to intervene and reprimand Magic for using magic for such frivolous antics. After he left, Cleon asked what was happening on the other side. Magic, turning to say nothing was wrong, accidentally caught a glimpse of her and ended up getting a rock thrown at his head. As they continued their journey, Orphen couldn't believe that it had taken him 3 years to master spells that Magic was picking up in just 2 weeks since he started teaching him. Clearly, the name says it all. At this rate, Magic would become a wizard within a year. Cleon noticed that Magic was starting to dress like Orphen. Well, he was indeed wearing Orphen's clothes. Even Cleon was wearing his pants, which she had altered to fit. They needed to cross this forest and travel for another 3 weeks to reach the Tower Fang. Orphen took a detour to avoid an observation station, because if they were identified as wizards, they would be reported to the church. The church, a religious organization as influential as the royal family, detested wizards. That night, while camping in the forest, Orphen noticed the food he had prepared for the journey was almost gone due to their incessant eating. Cleo claimed she could cook, but her cooking was inedible. To stop their bickering, Magic went into the forest to gather food. Then, Magic got lost and was attacked by a snake. He used a magical shield to block the snake, but a girl discovered him. After learning Magic was a wizard and had a master nearby, she advised him to leave with his master. She was being controlled by the forest and couldn't leave herself. She warned that the place was very dangerous, and they should leave as soon as possible. Her name was Fiona, and she lived in a village that outsiders could never find. Magic asked for some food from her village, but they had already arrived because Magic's group had entered the forest illegally. Fiona tried to protect Magic, and soon her people also approached Orphen. Fiona, being a priestess of the temple, would be punished if she didn't obey them. On one side, Orphen was resisting the villagers and protecting Cleon. On the other, Magic was being protected by Fiona. However, he cleverly cast a spell that went unnoticed, causing the snake to fall, and create a diversion, allowing them to escape. But the villagers had firearms and Magic, caught off guard, was shot. On the other side, Orphen used Magic to defeat the villagers, and, learning that Magic had also been captured, went to rescue him. The 2 dwarves had also been captured by the village, and they were the ones who had tipped off the villagers to attack Orphen's group. They were currently detained as forced laborers, planning their escape soon. Orphen quickly found the village and saw that Magic was being held in a tower. He noticed the village's flag bore a dragon emblem. In this world, there are 2 faiths, the faith of the gods and the dragon faith. The dragon faith is an enemy to wizards. Cleon didn't understand why wizards, symbolized by dragons, were hated by the dragon faith, so Orphen explained. Long ago, the 6 strongest dragon races lived together and stole magic from the gods. At the forefront was the celestial dragon race. They gave rise to humans and today's wizards, making wizards essentially half human, half dragon. Although the celestial ancestors created humans, they believed that wizards were beings who had stolen their power, thus organizing events to hunt wizards. When the celestials disappeared, the hunt ceased. But some who still held the celestials' ideology founded the dragon faith to oppose wizards. Suddenly, a surge of power erupted in the village center, and Orphen realized it was Fenrir, the ruler of the forest. The villagers called it their master and came to worship Orphen. Knowing he had to get past the wolf to reach the tower, he asked Cleon to go to the observation station and report the situation. Orphen was then spotted by the village chief and targeted with a gun. He quickly ran, but was soon surrounded by villagers. Forced to retaliate with magic, he was stabbed in the arm. Then, the wolf approached from behind, asking if he was ready to make a sacrifice to gain the power needed to protect his belongings. Overwhelmed, Orphen fainted. Meanwhile, Cleom reported to the villagers about what the wolf had told her. She only revealed what they wanted to hear, hiding the truth. She then advised Orphen not to oppose the village chief. Orphen later woke up in a cell. Orphen remained silent, no matter what he was asked. Another person, Salua, arrived and identified Orphen as a dark wizard from the Tower Fang. However, Salua believed that even a dark wizard would be no match for his gun. He announced that he would start interrogating Orphen the next day. Salua later saw Fina bringing food to Magic. He knew she had misrepresented the wolf's words earlier but understood that she was still trying to do what was best for the village. Magic had meanwhile regained consciousness. He was surprised to be alive after being shot, thankful that Fina had managed to heal him in time. Fina lived alone in this house without parents, and her only role was to calm the villagers by appearing at the right time and saying the right things. Saving Magic was her own decision. Just then, the village chief arrived. He wanted Fina to pack her belongings as he planned for the entire village to leave. He claimed to have taken her in when she was lost in the forest. However, it was actually she who had found him, leading him to believe that the forest had granted her to him. Magic protested, insisting that she did not belong to him. When the chief drew his gun, Fina restrained him. Reluctantly, he put away the gun and told her to pack quickly. Magic was determined to take Fina with him. He then remembered that he needed to find Orphen and Cleom, but Fina had already brought Magic to meet Orphen in the jail. Orphen was immobile due to Salua's mental attack, an assault he could only withstand because of his specialized training. A regular person's mind would have been shattered. Magic felt that his capture was due to his lack of skill, while he had been trying to save Fina. Orphen knew Magic was trying to look strong in front of a girl, and thanked Fina for healing his mind earlier. Fina then returned to the tower, while Orphen was furious that the two dwarves had revealed information about his group to the village, leading to their current predicament. He was about to deal with the dwarves when Magic intervened. At that moment, Salua came down. He drew a knife and charged at Orphen. Magic tried to stop him, but was thrown aside. Salua then engaged Orphen in combat, realizing Orphen was only pretending to be immobile. After a brief skirmish, Salua suddenly revealed that he knew Orphen's former name. Meanwhile, Cleom had led the forest rangers to the area. However, they hesitated to enter because the church had instructed them to stay away from this place. Consequently, Cleom decided to enter alone. Salua knew of Orphen because 5 years ago, Orphen was promised to be Chelbman's successor due to his talents. Salua then drew his own sword. Orphen realized Salua was a Grim Reaper, an assassin employed by the church faction, tasked with eliminating those who opposed the church. Both were unsure why their adversary was in this desolate place. No answer forthcoming. Cleom knocked Salua unconscious to save time. She had the forest rangers with her, so Orphen asked her to clear the way for him. She refused, knowing he would leave her behind. However, Fina arrived and manipulated Cleom to follow Orphen's instructions. She then asked Orphen to take the unconscious people from the area while she decided to stay behind and follow the villagers. She had known Salua was a Grim Reaper because she had once seen into his mind. She wanted Orphen to save Salua because he was the only one in the village who had treated her kindly. Salua was there to assassinate the village chief, who was a former church member, but had fled here. Fina was brought here to sue Fenrir, but the village chief had the villagers' trust, and they had actively been manufacturing guns to combat wizards, despite the royal decree banning firearms. She knew the village chief was using her to locate the heart of the forest and would dispose of her once he found it. Thus, she wanted to save the most precious people to her, before something terrible happened. She wasn't afraid to die if it was her destiny, as she had made friends. Orphen disliked her response and refused her request because she couldn't even escape from him, so she shouldn't try to act strong. Salua then woke up and Orphen proposed a deal. He would spare him as long as Salua led him to the village chief. Meanwhile, Magic was with Fina to protect her. Orphen and Salua then went to the house of the village chief. Orphen wanted to uncover what the chief was plotting with the heart of the forest. Orphen negotiated and offered the village chief the name of the person who was after his life. Salua realized Orphen was betraying him and lunged at him, but Orphen blew him away. The village chief drew his gun to continue firing but was dodged by Orphen, who then disabled the gun with a countermove. The chief needed the power to overcome the dragon tribe. As he pulled the trigger, the gun exploded. The chief died, managing only to inform Orphen that the church was hiding a terrible secret capable of destroying the continent. Realizing his task was done, Salia left to return home. Meanwhile, Cleone couldn't persuade the forest rangers. She decided to wait for her friends there. Suddenly, a small dog ran to Cleone. When the rangers tried to attack it, it jumped on her. They revealed it was Fenrir's offspring. Knowing Fenrir was near, they decided to flee. The villagers, discovering their leader dead, wanted Fina to lead them. However, Orphen thought they should make their own decisions. They didn't listen and instead decided to follow Orphen to force him to lead them to the heart of the forest. Fina and Magic ran out to see Orphen being pursued and had to go help. Fenrir gave Fina a moment to leave before it would deal with the village. She split from Magic, while Orphen was on the run. He was spotted but quickly subdued the man and took his gun. He then reunited with Magic, and they soon found themselves cornered on a rooftop. Salia arrived to pick up Fina, but she refused to leave as she still had things to do. Orphen revealed he could use a teleportation spell, which was risky and could only move them 10 meters. They decided to try it and successfully teleported to the adjacent rooftop. They temporarily escaped and met up with Cleone when suddenly Fenrir arrived. It began to destroy the village, forcing Orphen's group to intervene. Orphen threatened Fenrir with its offspring, but it was indifferent, revealing it could use resurrection magic. Fenrir had originally given the village a chance by sending Fina, a resurrected corpse, to oversee it. It was enraged by the village chief's scheme to tamper with the heart of the forest. Now that the chief was dead, and the villagers continued his schemes, Fenrir felt compelled to punish them severely. Orphen refused to let the wolf wreak havoc, so he attempted to stop it at all costs. He fired several shots, but they had no effect. The wolf retaliated with a mental attack, but Orphen quickly countered it with a spell. Knowing the wolf's power operated through eye contact, Orphen realized that limiting its vision would neutralize the threat. He then instructed Magic to use light refraction, similar to how he had previously spied on Cleone. Magic created a refractive field around the wolf, allowing Orphen to press the gun against it and trigger the gun to explode. The wolf collapsed but decided to spare Orphen and his group this time, recalling a promise made to Cheldman. Although the wolf was still set on dealing with the village, Fina approached. She possessed a part of its power, and decided to sacrifice herself to protect the village. The wolf realized it could no longer control Fina and prepared to execute her, but Cleone intervened, holding up the wolf pup. She expelled Fenrir back to the forest. Fenrir warned them about disrupting the forest and cautioned that their freedom was not eternal. The next morning, the two dwarves emerged from hiding, assuming Orphen had been incinerated by Fenrir. But Orphen found them to remind them of their debt. Meanwhile, Fina and the villagers had moved on. She thanked Magic and Orphen for helping her escape her servitude to Fenrir, expressing hope that Magic would become a great wizard. Orphen's group then set off, with Magic still concerned about Fina but determined to become a wizard above all. Cleone then ran out, taking the wolf pup with her. Orphen joked about having another mouth to feed. Along the way, Orphen pondered a prophecy the headmaster once told him about his destiny to surpass his mentor, Cheldman. He woke from his reverie, skeptical about the memory he had just recalled. Soon, the trio finally saw the Tower Fang. Magic believed it was the place where he would truly become a wizard. Back at the academy, rumors started to spread about the murder of the fifth elder. If things continued this way, all the elders would soon be killed. The board was eager to urgently address this major case due to its implications for the safety of the Tower Fang, determined to resolve it by any means necessary, even if it required force. Fort, Cheldman's last student, noticed that things had started going awry ever since Cheldman had set out to find Azaleen. Titch was already waiting in Fort's room, inquiring whether Azaleen had truly been defeated. However, Fort wanted to resolve the Elder's murder case first. The suspect was described as having black hair and being quite thin, seemingly a wizard from the tower. Having heard all about encountering Orphen on the battlefield and Cheldman's disappearance, Fort suspected Orphen was the murderer, believing his actions against the elders were driven by vengeance. Meanwhile, Orphen was bathing the horses when he saw Magic being scolded by Cleone for mocking her cooking. She had now mastered using the wolf pup to attack. Orphen then encountered trouble with the forest rangers. Although they knew he was a wizard, they didn't want to hand him over to the church. knowing he would likely be killed, so they advised him to leave and pretended they hadn't seen him. As he was leaving, Orphen remembered he had forgotten his dragon-shaped pendant. Just as he turned back, he found the ranger had been assassinated, and on the wall was his pendant with a message about the successor. The other two were unaware of what he was contemplating. Suddenly, their carriage was explosively shot at. Magic and Clayom noticed someone in the sky. Magic fired a spell at him, but the attacker returned a stronger blast. However, the wolf pup blocked the attack, protecting them both. Orphen, unharmed by the recent attack, turned back. He called the attacker a brat, so the attacker used a teleportation spell, appeared right in front of him, and fired a crystal spell. Magic and Orphen scrambled, while Clayom was still protected by the wolf pup. Orphen realized this attacker was stronger than him, but not as strong as the wolf pup. He told Clayom to be careful and hold on to the wolf pup tightly, unsure how the attacker could use Chubman's teleportation spell. The attacker suggested Orphen might not really be the successor as rumored. Orphen realized this was the man who had killed the ranger. He engaged in combat, but was completely outclassed. Clayom let the wolf pup attack, but the attacker caught it and turned to attack Clayom. The attacker unexpectedly missed his shot and was hit by a knife thrown by Tish. She announced that she would take Orphen away, prompting the attacker to reveal his face, shockingly similar to Orphen's from 5 years ago. Tish then escorted Orphen's group back to the Tower Fang, and along the way, she was introduced to the two siblings and vice versa. She was surprised by how much Orphen had changed over the past 5 years. At the gate, Hitch had the guards check their identities to ensure Orphen's group could enter safely. Orphen was curious about the tight security and learned that there had been several recent assassinations. In this city, wizards from the tower generally held high positions and authority. The residences granted to these wizards were essentially mansions, as evident from Childman's house. Meanwhile, the elders suspected the church's involvement in these incidents. Orphen was aware that Childman's and Fort's information network should have already identified the assassin. Fort was certain it was Orphen. At that moment, Fort called Harsha. He'd have found a bloodied sword in the old town and suspected that Childman had been killed. The likely culprits seemed to be Azaleen and Orphen. Everyone believed Azalee, the dragon, had been defeated earlier, so Orphen was naturally a suspect. Tish then brought Orphen's group to her private home. Most wizards lacked families, as no one wanted to send their children to a school like the Tower Fang, known for its high student mortality rate. Inside, Orphen encountered his old cat, which had completely forgotten him. Tish still collected various oddities, and she had prepared rooms for all 3 of them. Magic and Clayom took the opportunity to look through Orphen's childhood albums. He shared that he, Tish, and Azaleen were like family, and coincidentally, they ended up studying together in the same class.